that fear and that, oh no, I'm going to be found out, or oh no, I'm going to be picked on, or oh no, I'm going to be bullied, or oh no, I'm might actually be like beaten up or hung on a locker. That for me, that fear developed a sense of humor in me. And that has been a very, very valuable skill that has helped me have a career.
Hey everyone, I'm Denisa Tova, host of Beyond the Bar podcast. So my guest today is one of those people who just makes a room better the second he walks into it. He grew up on a pony farm in Pennsylvania, of all places, and somehow went from there to Ralph Lauren to television, where he's been making people feel pretty good about themselves ever since. And you know him from Queer for the Straight Guy, these days from the judges table on RuPaul's Drag Race. And he's also a world champion on a horse. He's a best-selling author and honestly one of those funniest people out there. But I cannot wait to dive in behind the headlines, because that's what we do, is we want to know who the person is outside of their fame and titles. So Carson Kressley, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for all the glowing introduction. I'll try to be funny and charming, and I appreciate all the nice things. So thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. And, don't take it the wrong way. All the stuff I read, terrific, terrific,
Hmm.
boring. We're going to get to the really cool stuff. And I want to know your story. And you know what? I do want to start here, though. What
Hmm.
is the one thing that when you see people wear, it sort of makes you go, oh no, it makes you cringe a little bit?
Oh gosh, only one. I have a long list, Denisa. Um, I mean, I am not that judgy in real life, and of course, if I'm doing a makeover on a TV show, I'm gonna really dive in and try to get to the nitty-gritty and help this person because I'm doing the Lord's work here. But some things that I don't love, I mean, socks and sandals, full-on matching tracksuits. Flip-flops on airplanes or any place that's not the beach. Um, and also, it's the number one kernel that I tell people all the time. It's not about like how fancy your clothes are, how nice your clothes are. The really important thing is, are you wearing the right thing to the right place? Like in real estate, they say location, location, location. It's the same with clothes. Like, I'm wearing like a terry cloth shirt because it's summer and I'm relaxed and we're doing a fun podcast together. But I would wear something different if I were cleaning my basement or if I was going on a TV show or if I was going to a wedding or on a date. Like it's really you have to wear the right thing to the right place. Is really the crux of it all.
That's interesting that you said that. No, you had me rolling when you said the socks and the sandals and all that stuff. But you know what? I also heard that, the clothes, it wears something that sort of makes you feel confident. Okay. So let's say someone who is going to, I don't know, they're going to an event, and like you said, it make clothes appropriate to the event. And let's say it's
Right.
something that's more, buttoned up.
Yeah.
But that person doesn't feel great in it, right? You can see these people at a
Yeah.
networking event in a corner going, I'm quite uncomfortable. How do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, you have to be. Some people are just like, oh, I want to be comfortable. And to them, that means like I'm wearing, a tracksuit and sneakers to a dressed up event. That's, you might think you feel comfortable physically, but if you look out of place, you're probably going to still retreat and not really be your authentic self and be open and be accessible and have a great time. So the secret sauce is finding things that make you look and feel amazing. It could be your favorite colors. Could be a color that makes you feel alive and awake. You might be someone that loves, and feels really chic in all black. That's great too. Um, it's about the color, it's about the fabric. Is it comfortable? Does it make you feel sexy, empowered? Whatever it is you're trying to evoke, you want it to do that job. And then does it fit? Does it flatter? Does it accentuate the positive and minimize our perceived negatives? All of those factors go into creating an outfit that makes you look and feel your best. It's just like I simplify it sometimes and I say, like, we all feel better when we have a good hair day or when we get like a fresh blowout or we get fresh color or whatever it is. You're just like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I didn't realize how bad I felt or how bad I looked until I got my glow up at the salon. And all those little things add up to big things. And all the superficial things can really affect the deeper things about how we feel about ourselves and how we present ourselves to the world. So, um, I've always known the power of presentation.
Wow, you really connected the dots. It's really bringing out the essence, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what I do. I love sharing that expertise with people, and I just know that clothing is a very powerful tool in how you're going to feel as you go about your day or your career or your love life, or it affects so many things. We don't do that many things naked, Denisa.
You
And
don't?
sometimes you need clothes to get you there. Um, they're
Yeah,
really important. I know they're superficial and they're not that important, but they actually are really important in how we feel.
they are. Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I am completely with you. I started sort of my career in that what was the men's world, financial industry. This was decades ago, and everybody was sort of suited up and in these utilitarian. It was the
Right,
slacks and the suit and just a one. It was like this monochrome look. And then I did a little bit of a television in Denver. When the market crashed and they needed a financial expert on TV.
right.
And so I met up with the stylist. And
Mhm.
then she goes, "No, honey, I'm going to take you shopping." And because it exhausts me. So she literally
Right,
goes, she picks up dresses of any possible color. She throws it on me. She goes, "Oh, you're going to pop." Well, I popped, but it was not me. So I had,
right,
dresses of so many different colors. And it wasn't until later on where I sort of merged, the athlete in me and sort of
right,
the professional woman in me and so many other things. I found my own style,
right.
and it was still fitted for the occasion, but it was
Yeah.
something that I owned and felt good in. So I love what you said.
Yeah, that's exactly where I want everybody to wind up. And I do these lectures where I, tell people it's all about finding your personal style, and you want to look like yourself. You don't want to look like the mannequin from the store. And even Tom Ford, who's one of my heroes and idols and icons, there's a great interview with him where he says, I don't want to see somebody out on the street looking like they're walking down my runway where it's head to toe Tom Ford, and it may have been Gucci
Mhm.
at that time, because that's not that person. That's the look that he put together for that presentation. But
Mm,
hopefully, through your self-confidence or through the confidence of a professional stylist or a best friend or somebody that, has a certain taste level and understands you, you can find that sweet spot where it's makes you feel good. It looks like you. It's very authentic to you. Um, and I'm so glad you got there in your career, because a lot of people, especially like if you're on camera, they'll say, "Oh, you have to wear this." Or to your point, when you were working in the Wall Street and the financial world, um, they would say there's a uniform.
yeah,
Years ago it was the guys had to wear Brooks Brothers and look like they were, some waspy New Englander who's been doing this for their entire life.
yeah,
And when women, joined that workforce in the financial world, they were kind of making them wear the same things, like, the two-piece business suit with the wool poly blazer and the longer pencil skirt and the blouses that had the bows. It's very rental car counter from
yeah.
the 80s. And I think we've gotten past that, where it's like you can still be sexy and be feminine and also be professional and look absolutely appropriate for your role.
So I want to go way back and
Hmm.
really just dig into the beginning of your story is
I feel like
tell
I
me
should lay down for this. This
you
is
should.
I should be on a sofa talking about my
What?
childhood.
Oh, you have no idea. Yes, let's just get lost. Let's get lost in it. I mean it's that kind of a conversation. But I want to know who was I mean, how far back can you remember yourself? Were you 5, 6, 7?
Yeah, I think, 5 and 6. I remember growing up on the outskirts of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it was the 70s. And my dad was a car dealer. So one of the things I remember most is that we had a cavalcade of gigantic 1970s cars. Um, a mint green Ford Thunderbird and a powder blue Lincoln Continental. My mom always got a nice car because she had to deal with my dad. And she had worked for the company as well as, like, a secretary and an errand runner, and someone that would have to drive to Harrisburg to get car titles. So she got a nice car. So I remember, Buick Rivieras, and it was no one had foreign cars back then. Like, a Toyota was very exotic. If you had a Mercedes, you were like from another planet.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember the cars. I certainly remember the clothes. I remember I've always loved shopping, and I spent a lot of time with my mom. I'm the youngest of three, but my brother and sister are 6 and 8 years older. So they, when I was 10, they were 16 and 18. They were not hanging out with me. Um, so it was a lot of, shopping, clothing, cars, um, fun stuff of the 70s, and certainly television.
Mm.
Um, because, if my mom was working and I was, getting home from school at 2:30 in the afternoon, um, I was watching the Brady Bunch and My Three Sons and all of the reruns that were on. Do you remember UHF television? It was like not the regular network, it was like the secondary channel, and you got like three extra UHF channels. And they were these weird secondary stations in Philadelphia and New York and Northern Jersey that only played reruns. So I was, enjoying the Beverly Hillbillies and shows like that from the 60s and early 70s that were already in reruns on secondary TV. So I tell people I was also raised by television.
So when did you realize that you had the eye, that you were, always clocking, what everybody else around you was wearing?
Right. Um, I think I realized I was fabulous around the fourth grade. Um, and it was also a really fun time in fashion because it became really mainstream. And I tell people I got my eye kind of from my mom and my sister because in the 70s, you didn't have to be affluent. You didn't have to go to Neiman Marcus. Fashion was it was everywhere.
Hmm.
Uh, in mom and pop stores and in, discount stores like Kmart and Two Guys and all these places. It was clothes had a lot of personality in the 70s,
Yeah.
and you really dressed for the occasion. And we were not an affluent family, but I do remember my mom wearing like these floor length, they were called hostess skirts. And
Hmm.
they were, printed and patterned or crocheted. And they were just insane because fashion was so ebullient and expressive in the 70s. And I just remember my parents going to parties or going out to dinner. My mom would dress for the occasion, and it was pretty dramatic and had quite an effect on me. And also designer jeans were coming out like in the mid 70s, and it was Calvin Klein and Vidal Sassoon and Gloria Vanderbilt. And I was just like, wait a minute, there's like a special kind of denim we're supposed to wear. And the mall was becoming a thing. The mall had its heyday in the early 80s, all through the 80s. So we got our first mall in Allentown, and we had a Bamberger's, which was a store from Newark, New Jersey, but they had a Ralph Lauren shop. And I was like, what
Mm.
is this?
Ooh.
I love these clothes. So it created an awakening in me. Um, and it was certainly fueled by the materialistic nature of the 70s and certainly the 80s, where it was like we were introducing that fashion consumerism. And it wasn't about, like, buying one jacket and one shirt and one tie. There was about having a lot of options. So I'd say around the fourth grade, which was like about 1978,
Mm.
um, and I needed a pair of Calvin Klein jeans. And I think I was the only boy like in my class that was like needed a pair of Calvin Klein jeans, but I needed them and I got them.
How did it feel to stand
Uh,
out?
oh, I loved it. I thought um, I was so innocent. And I think that's the thing about like when you're a kid, you don't have any of these societal guidelines telling you what to do and how to talk and act and sound and um, what to be interested in as a little boy. So I just saw designer jeans on like, Channel 11. There was, commercials for like Vidal Sassoon, the jeans that fit, and Calvin Klein, and it was Brooke Shields. And I just thought, oh, that's fabulous. I need that. I want that. I got that. And then you get the pushback from, the athletic boys. And certainly when you're like in the fourth grade, you're just starting to feel those like gender roles and those societal um, constrictions that you're absolutely supposed to conform to. So I think that was when I first, raised some eyebrows in my conservative elementary school that they were like, I don't think little boys are supposed to be into designer jeans.
Mm. Did you share that with your mom?
No, I didn't share. This is really getting to be like therapy. I love it. Um, I didn't share that with anybody because at that same time, it's a little bit sad because all of those pure interests of, I was interested in beautiful things and pretty things and um at that same time you're discovering your personal style and your flair and what you love and you're exploring the world. At that same time, you're also thinking like, I am not interested in the things that all the other little boys are interested in, and I'm not interested in the $6 million man, the show, but I'm interested in the $6 million man.
Yeah.
And you don't really, in the fourth grade or whatever, you're not sure like why Steve Austin is so compelling. And then I think when you get to your like prepubescent, your 12, 13 year old years, then you're starting to think, oh my gosh, I think I'm attracted to guys. And that's incorrect. It's not supposed to be that way. So to answer your question in a very roundabout way, I wasn't sharing any kind of drama I was having at school about not fitting in or being different with my family because there's certain shame associated with it.
Mm.
And I tell this to people all the time. I think the thing that's particularly challenging about growing up gay, and certainly at that time frame, and it was probably easier for me than somebody before that time frame, but during that time, you feel very, very different from everybody at your school, in your friend group, but also when you get home to your family. Uh,
Mm.
so if you're being kind of, bullied because you're the only Asian kid in your class, you come home and you probably come home to Asian parents most likely, and they say, "Oh, I know, racism is really annoying and it's something we have to deal with." But when you come home as the gay kid and you're 10 or 12 or 13, you're not seeing people that are going to relate to your situation and you try to keep that hidden
Yeah.
because the worst thing in the world would be if your safe place, your family, the people that love you, stop loving you because you tell them this terrible secret. So it's very challenging.
Yeah. I mean, for and being so young, it must have been so confusing. And so you carrying it, not really sure what that is. And it's not like you didn't have Chat GPT and Google
Right.
to have a conversation with. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Wow.
it's scary and it's lonely.
Yeah.
And I think it's why I've worked with so many LGBT kids causes like the Trevor Project and the my local community center in the Lehigh Valley where I grew up and things like that because I know what that I think it's scariest for LGBTQ youth um because you just don't know if you have the safe place and there's a lot of fear around that. Um, But and in the same time, that fear and that, oh no, I'm going to be found out, or oh no, I'm going to be picked on, or oh no, I'm going to be bullied, or oh no, I'm might actually be like beaten up or hung on a locker. That for me, that fear developed a sense of humor in me. And
Hmm.
if I was diffusing the situation on the school bus, or we had this thing in our junior high, I had the lovely experience of going to a rural school where it was a junior high and a senior high all in one. So it was like seventh graders and 12th graders.
Wow.
And I distinctly remember being a very scrawny little seventh grader who was probably like, I don't know, I started school early, so I was younger than everybody. So maybe I was like 12 or 13. And this is like in 1980. And there were seniors who had maybe like been seniors for a year or two who were like 18, and they had like mustaches and beards, and they drove
Wow.
cars, and they were smoking cigarettes. And I was just like, what? This is weird. But because I was with older kids, I had to learn how to defend myself, and my defense mechanism was a sense of humor.
Hmm.
So if I could um, relieve the tension by cracking a joke and making people laugh and diffusing, it was a way I could save myself, and that has been a very, very valuable skill that has helped me have a career.
And you also became a world champion rider. You were
I
surrounded
did,
by
yeah.
horses.
Yeah, I have the very
When?
I have the very unique upbringing of growing up in an equestrian family, and it sounds like very fancy, and it was not. My grandmother always wanted a pony. She was a child probably of like the 20s, and in the 1950s, there was pony mania in the United States, and there were TV shows like Bonanza and all these westerns, and everyone was moving to the suburbs, and it was a dream to have a Shetland pony in your backyard. So my grandmother was like, I'm going to get a pony for my kid, who was my dad, and that's going to be my way to get a pony. My dad was like, I don't want a pony. I'm into cars. No, thank you. But she had one, and then two turned into four, and four turned into, eight, and so on.
Wow.
And by the time I popped out in 1969, they had like 200 ponies, and my sister and my cousin and everybody was into it and would go to horse shows, and it was just second nature that you would have, a field full of ponies that you could ride and go to horse shows. So that was also another great opportunity because I was really good at it for some reason. And I got to go to competitions. And when you're
Mm.
like 12 or 13 and you're like having ponies, you're just like, no, no, I'm a cool kid. I'm like almost grown up now. I'm 13. I need a horse. And so that happened. And because I was talented at it, I got to travel and sometimes compete with other people's horses and helps maybe sell them. Or if a kid could ride it, it looked like it was a more valuable, safer horse for people to try and sell. So that allowed me to go to bigger competitions and travel and meet lots of interesting people and very fancy people, I thought. And, it was a great way for me. It really prepared me for showbiz and that entree because I was
Mm.
never intimidated by anybody. I was like, oh my God, Bruce Springsteen. I was like, yeah, his daughter rides. Like there was a familiarity of that echelon that made it not that intimidating for me. And I was able to kind of segue into that. So it was another thing. I think you gather all these little building blocks in your life and it makes you who you are. And then hopefully when you have opportunities, you're a little bit prepared because of your very unique path in life.
Very unique path in life. And horses, I've never ridden actually, but
Hmm.
they I've been around them to sort of feel they pick up your energy. They sort of they mirror your energy, right?
Yeah. Horses are herd animals, so they have a radar system. Their eyes, their ears, they're literally like satellite dishes. They can, sense movements and hear sounds from miles away because they don't want to get eaten by a lion. It's this, this prehistoric fight or flight response that's wired into them that makes them extremely sensitive to energy around them and the herd energy. And then the other thing that's really cool about them is that because they're a herd animal, they will try to match their heart rate to your heart rate. Okay, because that's a herd sensitivity mechanism. So if you're relaxed, they're going to be like, oh, we're in a safe space. The other member of the herd is relaxed. I'm safe. If you're anxious, and there's this saying that, the horse will feel your energy and will feel if you're nervous. So don't be nervous, which is easier said than done. But if you're nervous, they will feel that nervous energy as well. They'll feel your heart racing and they will match that energy. So yeah, that's why they're very, very good for calming people down too. Like for anybody who has PTSD or people who may have had, abusive experiences or trauma from the military or whatever, they can be great as a therapeutic um, exercise. And then the other thing about horses that's great, they're extremely sensitive, just how they're made and what their bodies and their architecture and their nervous system, because they can feel a fly, on their butt, and they can shake their skin and shake the fly off. And it weighs, less than an ounce, but they can feel it, 10 feet from their head. They can shake it off with their nervous system. So they're incredibly sensitive. So that's been a great experience being around that kind of energy and learning how to be in the moment, learning how to be sensitive, learning how to be calm, learning how to breathe, all that stuff, I think, is really important. And when you show at a very, very high level, that comes in handy. So I was pretty successful and I've won some world championships. I've been on the World Cup team. That's something that people are always surprised to hear.
Yeah.
Uh, it's really my passion in life. I love it. I have a farm in Pennsylvania. I try to ride as much as I can. I still compete. Um, it's hard with my schedule, but I do it as much as I can. That's really what I live for and what I work for.
You completely pulled me into this conversation. I actually you were asking about, we were talking about TV in the 70s, if I knew this
Right.
channel, and I wasn't born here. I was born and raised in Prague, Czech
Okay.
Republic. And I came to US when I was about 15 by myself, not
Wow.
knowing the language. And so been through a lot of different traumas. And
Right.
so it was many, many, many years later when someone suggested, is it equine therapy? Is that what you
Sure.
would call
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can call it
And
that.
and I remember just being in the vicinity, in their presence. There was about 4 or 5 of them. This was in Colorado. And it was just so transformative. And it was like the world stood still.
Right.
And it actually brought me into the moment that I was able to sort of like re-experience, relive,
Mhm.
and sort of calmed, that part. I think over time we exile, our children like parts, and we push
Mhm.
them away. I was able to see it with clarity, that one part, and I can't even describe it, but you just
Right.
pulled me back in, and it was so effective. It was phenomenal. So wow. Well, we're talking horses dancing. I mean, so
Yes,
yeah, you did Dancing with the Stars, which is a pretty
I
brave thing for
did.
anyone. How did you get there, and
Oh,
what did this show you about yourself?
yeah, that was a great experience. And I got there very just accidentally. Like so many things have happened I am not a person that has like a 5-year plan. I don't really generally know what I'm doing next Thursday. I'm not, I love a calendar. I love to kind of know where I'm going to be, but I don't really have a big life plan. And I've always been very envious of people who are like, oh, I want to be a dentist. I'm going to go to college and then I'm going to go to dental school and then I'm going to learn with a dentist. I'm going to hang my shingle and then that's going to be my life. Mine has been much more circuitous, and I just, follow opportunities. And Dancing with the Stars was kind of like that. They had called me a couple times to do that show. This was in 2013 when I actually did the show, so it was quite a long time ago. And I said, "Oh no, one thing I am not is a dancer. I am the least coordinated person in the world. Like, I can't do that thing where you have to like rub your head and like pat your belly or vice versa. I don't have any coordination in that way." And I said, "No, no, no, that's not for me. I couldn't do it." And then they asked again, and I was just like, "No, it's just, I would be terrible." And then they caught me in a weak moment, and it was like Labor Day weekend, and that show starts like the fall television season. It's always been a big like um, television season kickoff for ABC.
Yeah.
And this was at the height. It was, very, very popular show. And they called and they said, we had a celebrity drop out. And it turns out it was Ryan O'Neal. And
Mm,
he was dancing with Anna Trebunskaya, who became my partner. And I think they rehearsed for, a very short period of time, maybe like a week or so. I don't know all the details. And he said he didn't want to continue with it, had to drop out. So they were in a pinch. I knew the casting director maybe from something else, and I said, "Okay, sure, I'll help you out." Um, so it was like the Friday before Labor Day. I was like, "I'm going to go to Fire Island, and then when I get back on Tuesday, we
yeah.
will start rehearsing." They're like, "No, no, no, you're already a week behind. You need 2 weeks of solid rehearsal before that first show. Everybody else has been practicing. We're flying your partner to New York right now, and you're going to start like tomorrow." I was like, "Oh, buzzkill, that's going to ruin my weekend." And I didn't realize like how serious it was that you needed to be, practicing immediately.
Yeah.
And Anna came to New York, and we got a great song. It was Moves Like Jagger by Maroon 5. And I remember her putting the CD and it was a CD back then in
Wow.
the boom box. And it was so fast. And I was like, "Oh my God, how are we going to dance to this?" And it's a theory of my life where I say yes to things and I figure it out later. So that was that scenario. I said, "Yes, I will do it." I didn't know what I was getting into. I would figure it out later. That dance went really well. It was when the show was on for 2 consecutive nights. Like, you would dance on a Monday, then they have a results show on a Tuesday, and one person would get to redo the favorite dance of the evening. And I got chosen to do that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm terrible," but I packed it with personality. I designed a great costume. And most importantly, I had a great time doing it. And
Mm,
I had fun. And I think that translated. And certainly that first, dance out of the gate, you want to have fun. And well, at least I did. Um, and I think the audience responded to it. Then the rubber hit the road like 2 or 3 weeks later, where it's like, okay, you can have fun, but you also need to know what you're doing. And Len Goodman was perhaps like the mean judge at the time. He was amazing and so
mm,
accomplished, and I adored him. And he really told it like it was. And he was just like, "You've got to really just learn how to like be a better dancer. Sorry." Um, so I was on for like 5 or 6 weeks. I loved it. I had a great time with the costumes. It was creative, it was
mm,
storytelling. So I really leaned into that. And we had, there was a dance, and you don't get to pick your song. And
mm.
sometimes you get a great song, like I got right with out of the gate with Moves Like Jagger. But like my fifth week, we had to do the quick step, which is really hard. And it's like
Yeah.
slow, and then it's fast, and you're up and you're down. And the song I received was, it was called like Walking Back to Paradise by like Helen Friedman. I was like, "What is this song? Who is this person?" And I guess it's a popular ballroom dancing song from England where the show originates, and the producers maybe picked it because of that. But I was able to start the number in black and white, and I have like, old-fashioned glasses on and a cardigan. And then I said, "Wouldn't it be funny when I jump off the stage if like the screen dissolves back into color?" And the producers were so great about indulging all of my creative whims. And I stayed on for a long time because of that. But it's been one of the greatest experiences in show business because I made so many incredible friends. Some of my one of my best friends I met on the show. I'm the godfather to her kids. I was in her wedding. I did a bunch of cruises for Dancing with the Stars. I made a cottage industry out of it. I hosted the live show in Vegas. That not being able to dance, but having a good time, brought me some great friends, great people, and helped pay for this house that I'm sitting in. So it was a great experience.
I love what you said about being open to what's next.
Hmm.
Yeah, keeping things sort of fluid. And I think people who do have it sort of predefined and figured out, as you say, I think it's a tough way to be, because then just the smallest thing can throw you off if it doesn't go the way you've sort of planned out. Um,
Yeah.
that's it. So it just, so doors kept on getting open. What about, how did you end up on Queer Eye show?
That was also very serendipitous, and we don't even really know how, but I had a great job at Ralph Lauren, and I
Mm.
loved working there. It was like the Devil Wears Prada, except people were nice and very preppy. And I got to work with Ralph's brother, Jerry, who was lovely, and I got to climb my way up from being an assistant um, to working in design and then working in advertising. And I loved working in advertising because that was like storytelling. Again, it was like
Yeah.
creating a beautiful picture or a beautiful video that captured the romance of whatever that collection was about. Whether it was like Nantucket or if it was Argentina or a Great Gatsby kind of vibe. I just loved using clothing to tell that story. And we had beautiful models and gorgeous locations. And I love the brand. I love the vibe of the brand. It's very horsey, so it was a perfect fit. And I had a great job. And I was at that point, I had been there for about 8 years, and I was styling all of the department store advertising materials. So if it was an ad for Neiman's or Bergdorf's or Bloomingdale's or Macy's or Filene's. I mean, back in the day, 25 years ago, there were department stores all over. Um, they were all independent stores, and Burdines was in Florida, and LS Ayres was in St. Louis, and Robinson's was in Los Angeles. So I got to go to all of those either studios or locations and help create advertisements for those particular stores with the Ralph Lauren brand. I loved my job. But one day, one of our producers who booked the photographers and the locations and the models said, I heard about this show. It's going to be on Bravo. It's called Queer Eye. And it's, about, a real life crew of gay guys that are experts in interior design and food and fashion. And I said, oh, that sounds really fun. Um, I'm going to look into that. To this day, we don't know how she heard about it. She doesn't remember. She thinks she heard about it like on the radio. And
Hmm.
the producers were like, we never did a radio like cattle call or anything. So
Huh.
it was very serendipitous. I'm also very, I do have a lot of chutzpah, I think. I do like to take initiative. I'm a squirrel looking for a nut at all times. So it's like, well, this could be fun. Let me find out what this is all about. It was before Google. We had this thing called Ask Jeeves. I don't know if you remember that, but it
Yes.
was, it was like a search engine. So I asked Jeeves, what's the phone number for Bravo? They were in Jericho, Long Island. They were not owned by NBC or Comcast or Universal or anything at that point. They were, I think, owned by Rainbow Media, and it was a small company in Long Island. I called them, and they're like, "Oh, that's not how TV works, ma'am. You have to call the producers." And I was like, "Well, who are the producers?" And they said, "Oh, it's this company called Scout Productions. They're in Alston, Massachusetts." So I clickety clack on my computer. I asked Jeeves, what's phone number for Scout Productions. I call them. I get an intern. She's like, the guys that run the company are in New York casting for this show. I was like, yes, that's what I'm calling about. She said send a headshot down to this casting studio in Chelsea. I was like, I don't have a headshot, but I do have a very cute picture done by Bruce Weber of me with some polo models holding some cashmere sweaters, and I'll pop that down via Messenger because I don't think we had PDFs and things
Yeah.
like that yet. And they called and said, come down. And I razzle dazzled them with authenticity and sass. And Also the security of knowing I have a great job. What do I care? This was
Right.
just going to be a fun, little adventure. And they liked me, and we made a pilot, and that was in 2002. And because they were from Boston, we filmed everything in Boston. I borrowed a car from my dad's car dealership and loaded it up with clothing because I had to style the entire cast. So I had a trunk full of Cavalli and Ralph Lauren because it was, 2002,
Hmm.
and went to Boston, and we filmed on Newbury Street, which is like, the Rodeo Drive of Boston. And we had a great time with it and thought, kind of like, oh my gosh, we're going to be famous. We're going to be on TV. And then after like, we were home for like a week and back at our jobs, all of us were just like, okay, that was fun. I don't think anything's going to happen. And then a year later, like in March of 2003, the producers called and said, hey, Bravo was purchased by NBC. They love the idea of this show. They want to make it the cornerstone of the new Bravo.
Wow.
We're going to start filming. You need to quit your job. And I was like, quit my job? Are you what? I have dental
Wow.
insurance and a 30% discount. Um, but I had a great boss. And every time I tell this story, I shout out to Liz Paley, who said, this sounds perfect for you. If it doesn't work out, we'll figure out a way to hire you back in some capacity. I mean, I could have been cleaning the bathroom, but they were going to, bring me back if it didn't work out, which is the most gracious, wonderful situation you could have possibly hope for. And we started filming in March. It was on the air in July. I think we made like $2,000 an episode. And I was just like, gosh, if this doesn't work, I've just quit my job for $16,000. And it did work. I think it premiered July 23rd, 2003. And like the next week we were on Jay Leno, which was insane. And I remember Bravo rented us little Mercedes, like sports cars to drive around LA. And they gave us sunglasses and they were like, you're going to need these. And we were all just like, I don't think so. But that was 25 years ago. And I'm still lucky enough to work in showbiz. So here we are.
Here we are. Gosh, there's so much there. You're unstoppable.
I'm gritty,
Mm.
and I'm scrappy, and I don't like to take no for an answer. So I usually get a lot done.
What what is it something, after so many years, what is it something that you're trying to protect, you would say, the most these days?
Oh gosh, protect. Let's see. I think it's your own like mental health. I think showbiz is really, really hard because you never know where it's going. And that's the fun and exciting part, but that's also, there's not a lot of planning that can be done in showbiz because you never know. It's very much, a gig job. It's very one job to the next. Um, it seems like there's fewer and fewer opportunities in entertainment. And now we have wonderful AI coming, and it's like, wait, are any of us going to have jobs? So
Yeah.
I think it's that level of anxiety you're always trying to manage, and I totally feel for like, people on Broadway, actors. I
Mm.
mean, that is even harder because it's just there's millions of people that want to do it, and you're just hoping to be in the right place at the right time and be talented. Um, so for me personally, I try to protect that, like not be too anxious about it. Think about the best case scenario. Always look for opportunities. And I think that's why I've kept working and I will knock on every wood surface around to keep that going. So that's what I'm protecting is like just to not be too anxious and protect my own mental health because you want to also enjoy the fruits of your labor, you want to enjoy life, you want to enjoy your family, you want to enjoy
Yes.
summer and good food and traveling. So I try to protect that balance, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, balance is an interesting word. Sounds like you have this sort of insatiable thirst for, I don't know if it's growth, but like you said, you have chutzpah and trying to grow through stuff and trying new things. Certainly
Right.
have not had issue trying new things and throwing yourself into new stuff. And do you ever, well, that's sort of, that sounds too absolute, but what does it feel like just sitting quiet? Are you able to do that?
Oh, no, I don't like that. This is where, are you sure you're not a licensed clinical therapist? Because this is sounding like therapy. Um, I have a hard time sitting still, being quiet, being alone with my thoughts and anxiety or whatever. So I'm very much from the school of and was raised that stay busy,
Yeah.
idle hands are the devil's playground. Stay busy, work hard, always be doing something. That's just what I saw growing up. Like we were not a family that like went on vacation and relaxed. It was just, when you either have a business or you live on a farm, there's always something to do. So there wasn't a lot of like leisure time. So I am trained to stay busy. I do need to learn how to be better about like enjoying quiet time and solitude, and it's okay to be alone with your thoughts. Um, yeah, I think that's something I try to work on. As I've gotten older too, that becomes more, um, there's more clarity with that.
Hmm. What is your pet peeve about people?
Oh, pet peeve about people. How much time do we have to?
Oh boy.
No, I'm pretty much a people person, and we had a really funny queen on RuPaul's Drag Race. And she did a song called I Hate People. I thought it was so funny, because it was just about all the things that annoy you about people. I don't like rudeness and I don't
Mm.
like selfishness. So when I'm out in the world, um, I hate when I see that kind of behavior. Like
Yeah.
um, I just watched this podcast, and there's another queen from the show, named Delta Work, and she just does this podcast, and she just looks right to the camera. And she's like, "Remember in the pandemic when when there was no toilet paper?" She was like, there was very clear that there are two types of people in the world. The people who bought up all the toilet paper because they didn't want to be without, and then the people who bought one roll of toilet paper because they knew it was a precious commodity. So that's the kind of person I don't love, the one that's buying all the toilet paper. I'm more of a team player, and
Yeah.
I'm a believer in the goodness of people and community, and I don't like selfish, mean people.
So you've had a long journey, and when you sort of carried, I guess it was a secret, but just and it's, to me, showing up is beyond, whether you're gay, straight, whatever you likes,
Mhm.
dislikes. Do you feel like you have been able to just completely show yourself, whether it's circle of friends, just sort of remove all the masks, and do you feel just 100% being in your skin?
No, no. And people would say that I am very, very comfortable with who I am. And that is one of my skills that I help people, whether it was Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, or I did another show right after that called How to Look Good Naked. And it was on
Mm.
Lifetime. And it was geared towards women who had, body dysmorphia and shame issues and didn't feel confident with their bodies. And I'm very good at helping people um, put all that aside and be authentic. Literally, in that How to Look Good Naked show, we did like a tasteful nude photo shoot where it was just like, God, I'm just gonna, take it all off and bare my soul and my body and myself to the world. Um, I'm really good at that. My trademark is authenticity, and I think that's, if everybody can get to authenticity, the world is going to be such a better place. But even I'm not always like 100%. Like sometimes you want to like cover up and dress a certain way to create an image. I remember when I was doing The Apprentice, and I did not do it with Trump. It was the year that I think he was like first running, and we did it with Schwarzenegger. And I remember every outfit I wore like a business suit, and they were like, you don't have to, dress like a Wall Street executive. It was like, no, no, I want to because it's getting me in the mood. But also it was my armor and
Mm.
it was my mask and my costume that I wore to feel better about myself, to feel stronger, to maybe put an image out there that I was tougher than I was. So I think, yeah, I still wear some masks and some costumes.
That's being 100% authentic, admitting that.
Right,
There
right.
you go.
That was my protection.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. We can give others advice. It's like Jim Rohn said that what does it do? Listen to me carefully, but do not watch me too closely.
Yeah, no, that's totally right for so many people, including
Yeah.
myself.
Wow. Carson, we could just go on. I feel like I've known you for a long
I
time.
I feel like I need to send you a check for $97 for the hour of therapy. I'll Venmo
Uh,
you.
no, this has been really enjoyable. So on a parting note, what are you working on right now that you'd say you're most excited about?
Oh, well, I am 56 years old and I've been working in showbiz for about 21 years, I think, or
Wow.
24 years. And I am working on like exhaling and enjoying a little bit of the fruits of my labor. So one thing that I'm really excited about is having a farm and building that out and having more of an equestrian center here and being a gentleman farmer and being more involved in horse stuff. Um, I have still, lots of TV projects, RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars on Paramount Plus, Barbecue Brawl, which is airing right now on Food Network, which I love doing. And that's just a fun passion project. I'm really getting into food, which is, it's great. I credit TikTok and Instagram because there's so many good ideas out there. What else? I adore anything to do with interior design. So I have a collaboration with Ballard Designs. They're a great uh, home goods company, and they really allow people to be their own decorators and create beautiful personalized spaces with great quality merchandise. So that's been so fulfilling. I love that. So more of that. I really just want to lean into things that um, are creative. I'm doing a play in the Hamptons this summer at the end of summer. I love
Mm.
doing those because that's like playtime for me, literally. It's just like I don't normally get to do that. People don't think I have acting chops, but
What?
I like to surprise them and do some fun projects like that. So really the goal is to have fun and be creative. And that's where I'm trying to, you know, put my energy and it makes me happy.
And you can tell authentically that it
Thank
does.
you.
Yes. This has been so much fun, and thank you so much for generously, sharing a part of yourself, your story. I mean, you really are a proof that you can become whoever you want to become, and
Absolutely.
still really be like the same kid from the pony farm underneath all that. There's
Yeah.
yeah, that innocence, I think, that pure creativity, it just it channels, it comes through. So thank you. Thank you again. Really
Thanks.
appreciate that.
Yeah, Denisa, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. And I'll send the check for the therapy. Thank you so much.
You're so funny. And of course, to our viewers and listeners, be sure to follow Carson on Instagram and, make sure that you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bar podcast. And until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.